Hi, everybody. My name is Marta Plumhoff, and I'm a first-year master's student in the Conservation Ecology and Environmental Justice tracks here at the School for Environment and Sustainability. I'm going to be talking about a case study of the Cover Crop Champions program and what we learned from it about the promotion of sustainable agriculture in the Midwest. To get started, I first just want to talk about the role of sustainable agriculture in food justice. Food justice involves all components of our food system, from access to consumption to waste. When we think about aspects of the food system on that end, it's important to also think about the other end, where that food is coming from, how it's being produced, and that's where agriculture comes in. Sustainable agriculture is key to securing the future of healthy food production. In fact, the UN's second Sustainable Development Goal, Zero Hunger, specifically includes a target to promote agroecological diversification and ecologically based farm management as a means to ensure sustained food systems. But currently, a large portion of agricultural land is not being managed in sustainable, productive, or resilient ways. National ag policies like crop subsidies for corn and soybean have created a system that prioritizes profit over production. This industrialized agriculture has decoupled food production from ecosystem processes like soil nutrient cycling and promotes unsustainable practices like growing crops in monoculture and the over-application of chemical fertilizers, causing ecological degradation that ultimately threatens farm productivity and the health of surrounding ecosystems. But farmers face numerous constraints to overcome this system and thus are often forced to support it, leading to a cycle of worsening environmental conditions and increasing reliances on unsustainable practices. There are sustainable practices, though, that help this. Cover cropping is a practice in which non-harvested crops are planted during off-seasons to provide plant cover across fields and ecosystem functions. Some of these functions include enhanced recycling of nutrients to reduce fertilizer need, weed and pest suppression, reduced wind and water erosion, and increased soil organic matter. The problem here is that cover crops require some ecological knowledge that's a little bit more complicated than that which is needed to apply fertilizer. And farmers are constrained from adopting cover crops by all sorts of other economic, social, political, and environmental factors. Cover Crop Champions is a program developed by the National Wildlife Federation to help farmers overcome these constraints with the broader goal of facilitating sustainable ag practices all over the U.S. The CCC program involves teams of farmer champions who already cover crop and so already have that ecological knowledge, and outreach champions who are typically ag professionals like crop advisors or conservation specialists, and together they work to implement outreach to other farmers to spread their knowledge and promote cover crop adoption. So to understand how program participants are using language and messaging to communicate about cover crops with farmers who don't already cover crop, we interviewed the 2017 class of champions. And now, I'm a soil scientist, and so my background is primarily in the ecology and the biogeochemistry behind these sustainable practices. But I was really excited about this project because it involves the necessary integration of community engagement and ecological research. I'm a strong believer that researchers can investigate all we want about cover crops and soil health and ecosystem benefits, but until we learn how to share this work with the people who can actually use it, we're nowhere closer to achieving a sustainable food system. So after going through all of our interviews, our three main findings were: 1, farmer-to-farmer communication was the most effective way to promote cover crop adoption. 2, there are specific messaging techniques that are more successful than others, and I'll talk about some of these next. And 3, the program facilitated networks of farmers all over the Midwest that improved communication and fostered mentoring relationships that ultimately can help increase adoption. Some of these specific techniques included message framing and specific language use. Right now, cover crops are non-conventional. They're different and daunting because of that, and so generally, the farmers we interviewed were trying to talk about cover crops in ways that made them accessible and relatable to farmers in order to normalize them as simply an everyday component of a farming operation that will make their farms more adaptable to extreme weather, pests, and weeds. Also, farmers found that it was effective to talk about cover crops as a way to reduce risks and solve problems that every farm faces, like expensive inputs, herbicide resistance, or soil erosion. In theory, the CCC program and these communication techniques can promote the sustainable farming practices that can restore ecosystem health to our agricultural land to then ensure future sustainable food production. To achieve this, the Cover Crop Champions program uses a grassroots, bottom-up model for adopting conservation practices. but this doesn't address the macro-scale capitalist constraints on cover crop adoption, like the overwhelming focus on industrial agriculture in our national farm bill policies. However, the program does identify and facilitate key communication methods that can overcome smaller scale constraints and increase adoption of sustainable farming practices, aligning with the UN's encouragement of collective action to promote sustainable agriculture. And that is all I have. I just want to quickly acknowledge the other members of my team, Allison Bressler, Jennifer Blesh, and Leslie Huey, as well as thank the entire Cover Crop Champions program staff and all the participants we talked to. If you have any questions about this project or my work in general, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than happy to hear your questions, comments, or feedback, or connect you with another member of my team. Thank you so much for watching.